Welcome everybody from around the world. We're literally an international audience today. Thank you all for signing up. Nice to see so many friends. Nice to see new people. So welcome to the new people I don't know. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott Grossberg, and I'm going to facilitate for you today. I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking, but I do want to introduce our guest professor today, who I just am enamored with, and I'm so thrilled that he agreed to do this. We have Darrell Wright today, and I remember when Darrell was first starting out with this project that he's put together for you, and off the air, Darrell and I share things. Darrell has been very generous in sharing some of his ideas and concepts, constructs, inventions, creations. You want to see a real Renaissance man, here he is. So I've been very fortunate to be able to have him share with me. And then we have some mutual friends in place, particularly the Jacquins, who Darrell has also shared some of these techniques and concepts and constructs with. And that kind of took off. And so one thing led to another, and I asked Darrell if he would agree to come on and do this. And here he is. So welcome, Darrell. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. So let's do a little quick logistics check. All of you listening, I'm presuming you can hear me. So here's how we're going to test this. If you'll go down to your reaction button at the low bottom part of your screen, just put a thumbs up so I can see that you're hearing me. Perfect. Now, obviously, for those of you who I can see the thumbs up. So go ahead and take your thumb away. Oh, Christine, I got a heart. Thank you. And then you guys can also raise your hand during this process and ask questions. So Darrell, while he's going to present, is very open to questions. I will certainly facilitate some of this. We're going to go about half hour, 45 minutes. Darrell's going to do his thing. We're going to leave some time at the end for questions. And the cool part is we are recording this, as you know, and it'll be available for replay in our group. So wonderful. I don't need to tell you where the restrooms are. They're down the hall to the right. If you need them, just turn your camera off. And other than that, I'm going to turn this over to Darrell with the first request from me. And that's Darrell, for those who don't know you, can you just do a quick intro?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Darrell Wright. I originally got my start doing acting, went to college for that and got a degree in music theater. And then I stumbled onto hypnosis back in around 2016. I got my first certification in that, did stuff in that kind of clinical hypno kind of consulting sort of a gig, and did that for a bit. And I still do that on the side. And just recently, I got into the tarot, and as well as acceptance and commitment therapy, and kind of leads us to what we're looking at today.
Perfect. So before we get too much further, can you let everybody know how they can contact you? Because I know they're going to have questions, and I know they're going to want to reach out when this is done.
Yes, absolutely. You can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm Darrell Wright on Facebook. And you can also get a hold of me through my personal email, which is think.sql@gmail.com.
And we'll give that again as we're at the end here. All right, without further ado, Darrell, I'm turning this over to you.
All right, thanks, Scott. So this program that I've put together is called Tarotting Act. And really what it is, it's a combination of using the tarot to do a reading, but it's overlaid on the foundation of acceptance and commitment therapy. Now, what had happened was I wanted to really develop a relationship with the tarot and being able to learn the cards and sit with it daily. And I needed something to make it interesting for me to keep my attention. And at the same time, I wanted to learn acceptance and commitment therapy. And so I noticed that there was an opportunity for a blend and a spread. And so I'll show that to you today as we go through. Now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen out so that we can go through some slides, because I'm going to go through a quick presentation just so that you can be aware of some of these concepts of acceptance and commitment therapy and how that can be useful in doing this. Okay, so we've got Tarrowing Act, Portal to Zero, and beyond. Okay, so before we get started, I do have some special thanks to go out in coming together with this. So first of all, Aaron Mathis, he was able to help quite a bit with pushing me in the direction of Tarot, the I Ching, and a whole lot more, including personalities and tying that together with the cards. Anthony Jacquin, he was the one that brought acceptance and commitment therapy to me as an idea of something that I should pursue. Scott, our lovely host today, he's awesome, and he's really pushed me hard and has directed my thinking. And in fact, he's become a voice inside my head. I know that might be startling, Scott, but seriously, a lot of these things came to me late at night, drifting off to sleep, and you were whispering those sweet nothings in my ear. So thank you so much for that.
Well, you're welcome, and I love you.
All right, love you too, Scott. And then also on the bottom here, I just want to really point out some special people that have really helped contribute, and that's Fiona Dodd. I believe you just joined in today. Thomas Wood, he couldn't be here. He was doing a gig with the Snottle Dogs. Joshua Bandy, I see you here. Thank you so much. You inspired me so much with this. My friends from Spiritual Connections, I know some of you are in the audience today, and many, many others. So here we go. Buckle your seatbelts because we're about ready to take off. So acceptance and commitment therapy. This is a third generation of cognitive behavior therapy. And some of the main points I want to really point out here is it's about developing psychological flexibility. You know, to me, what that means is in the human experience, day in, day out, we'll have thoughts, we'll have feelings. And sometimes those thoughts and feelings are either the body or the mind trying to help us. But sometimes they distract us and pull us away from our values. And values really meaning, what's most important to me? What's the reason why I get out of bed in the morning? Where do I find my passion? Why am I on this planet? And so really, acceptance and commitment therapy helps us to identify those values and the tasks that we want to use to continue moving in that direction. But it also gives us mindfulness. And so they give us a tool called the Hexaflex, which is the 6 facets of ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy. 4 of those are going to be on mindfulness. The other 2 are going to be values and next steps, actions you're going to take based on those values. So another tool that comes with that is Choice Point, and we'll take a look at that really quick. It's a way of looking at your behaviors and to find out, are you hooked on your thoughts and feelings in a way where it's taking you away from your values? So do I have doubt? Do I have fear? Do I not feel like doing the thing that I know is really important to me? And then lastly, down here on this slide are some resources. So if you want to, get a quick primer on acceptance and commitment therapy, just to understand the basics, because when you're doing a reading, you may say to yourself, well, I don't want to provide bad advice. If you ever find yourself asking yourself that question, if you do a quick read through on this book, Act Made Simple, it will open your eyes a little bit how you can direct focus and intent and attention while you're going through the reading. And it's sitting on top of this foundation of some really solid principles so that you can kind of lean on those, as well as being able to incorporate some of the other tools that you have in your toolkit. Now, there's also another book on there, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, The Process and Practice of Mindful Change. That's a pretty intense book, and it's more, I want to say, clinical in nature. So it took me about 3/4 of the way through before it got into the practical. So I had a hard time getting through that. But that first book that I mentioned, it is really solid at giving you the material you need, as well as there are additional downloads available. So Russ Harris, he's an Aussie, and he's done a great job putting little supplemental videos and downloads together for that. So any questions right now, real quick, about acceptance and commitment therapy? I can address that, and then we'll just move on.
And if you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask. Okay, you're on.
All right, moving on. Okay, so a couple of these tools that I talked about, you have the Hexaflex, right? And so this is what it would look like right out of the book, being able to see the 6 different facets of acceptance and commitment therapy. And then over on the right-hand side, you can see what the choice point looks like. So looking at that Hexaflex, we're going to spend some time with this because this turns into our spread. Okay, I'll be teaching today the 6-point spread. This is the gold. You can begin using this right away for your own personal time that you get up in the morning, or whatever it is where you want to have to do a spread with the cards and have that speak to you, so you can plan your day, plan your week, or process anything that may be showing up in your life. So I'm going to go through that on the next screen. And then here we have over here that choice point where I was talking about, where you have situations, thoughts, and feelings at the bottom. That arrow going towards, that's going to be towards your values, towards things that are important to you. If you're unhooked from your thoughts and feelings, then you're going to be moving toward your values. If you are
Darrell, I want to interrupt 1 second for those people, so that we get some consistency, not only here in the group, but with some of the terminology that I've heard you use before.
Sure.
So first and foremost, when you use the term choice point, as I understand ACT, not only ACT, but your spread is built on the entire premise that the seekers, the people for whom we're reading, have choices, and we as readers have choices, and we can help, what I like to call ethically, nudge them towards the better choice. Yes?
Exactly.
And number 2, you and I have talked a lot about my Shunyata coding and the 0-point philosophy of Ho'oponopono. And so a lot of that is built into this spread as well, for those of you who've heard me talk about my approach to Ho'oponopono and the Shunyata code. And it's also built on, again, I'll just use my terminology, that at 0, there is no story, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so I just wanted to lay that foundation for everybody, so that if terminology gets thrown out along the way, we really are talking about people having choice, people being able to determine their own futures. And if we can get them out of the stories they tell themselves, which are revealed by the cards, they're free.
Exactly. So the cards are going to bring about the situations, the thoughts, and the feelings in their story and what they're going through in their life. And what we're doing is bringing awareness to the fact that they have choice in how they're going to respond to those thoughts and feelings, and make choice on action to be able to move towards those values. And I think about it kind of like, you have Han Solo navigating the Millennium Falcon through an asteroid belt. Those asteroids would be thoughts and feelings. And what he's doing, he has a mission, he has a goal, and he's just gracefully or ungracefully, depending on what he's doing, will get through that belt. All right. And so what we have here now is, this is what I would call the chariot spread. And what you can see on there looks very closely like Metatron's cube. And so what I've done is I've gone out and I've purchased, this is like a altar cloth or a crystal gridding cloth. And you can find these on eBay if you do a search for, or not eBay, Amazon. You can find them all over the web. But anyway, you can find one, and it adds a real nice touch to doing the spread. You don't have to have one, because what we're going to do is we're going to be placing a card on each of those positions of those points of that hexagon. And so the myth behind this is that what I love about Metatron's cube and Enoch's chariot is that the idea that the Merkaba is a multi-dimensional compass, which can take you from our own personal experience in the body and be able to go beyond and be able to go outward and inward in this. And so I'm going to just leave that with you. And if you want to talk to me about that later, you can.
Yeah, but by the way, real quickly, again, for people who are studying, because I know there are people in here who are studying Hebrew and the like, Merkaba is a form of, among other things, Jewish mysticism, and it actually is Hebrew for the word chariot.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yes.
So that that worked out well. Okay, so the different positions that we're going to be working in is so the position one that's right up there at the top, that's usually where I begin with. Now, for the basic spread, this is the suggested sequence in which you would reveal the cards. Would be position one first, which is present moment. We would do something like an expansive kind of meditation to begin with, maybe have them take a few breaths, close their eyes, and become aware of the present moment. For the hypnotists in the crowd, this is where we can do a little bit of pacing and leading and plant some suggestions for the way that you would like them to receive this outcome. And so, and one of those that I would suggest doing would be that the unconscious mind is going to play with us and also bring things to the forefront of their mind. If you give that suggestion, then it will happen. Second, we would move down to the bottom position, and this is self as context. And so this is really starting to get into Shunyata code here. This is where you start to recognize how you're showing up in the world and recognizing that that is an expression of self, but that's not you. That's an expression of you. So self as context is recognizing that we're not the role. And so in this, we can ask and invite, okay, so if you are in position two and we look at that card as it's coming up, we can ask them, you know, what part of them is showing up to tackle this task, and are you comfortable with that part? So if you want to get into some things like ego state theory or internal family systems or parts work, this would be the place where you can do that. And now I'm throwing a bunch of lingo out there, but I'm gonna go through that in our live reading for the entire group. Third, we get into diffusion. So if you see position 3 out there, this is all about the story that we've created. So now we've got 3 cards displayed, and we can play off of these cards as they're together, as they're unfolding. And so we can look at the behavior that's related to the story and find out, is this behavior actually tied to something that's important, or is it a behavior that is moving in the other direction? So this is where we would use that choice point, right? So we're identifying the thoughts that are supporting the story, the feelings that are supporting the story, and the behavior of where that's being moved. Now, keep in mind here, you may even be able to ask the question, what would have to be true in order to keep this behavior current? And so when we start challenging the story, we now can ask the question of, you know, well, if you were writing the story, how would you how would you write how would you want this story, for yourself? If you could have any story, is that current one serving you, or are we going to start creating a new story based on the information that's coming forward? Number 4, when we move in that 4th position, this is acceptance. And so this is where I usually bring in some non-dual concepts. Like I might ask a question like, with this card, with what's being evoked by this card, if you had to stick with this circumstance for the rest of your life, could you be okay with that? It's not that they have to be, it's if they could be, because we're developing skills here. The other thing that could come up there is asking the question, can you be okay with whatever happens? It can be enough sometimes just to ask those questions. Now, when we get into the acceptance portion, it's really about escape. So when I see that card there, I'll say, oh, okay, are you trying to escape this? Is this something that you're trying to escape? Or is this something you're using to escape something else? So we can.
Darrell, let me interject here.
Sure,
a question that I have that I'm asking for the group, and that is, at any point, particularly at the diffusion or acceptance phase, are you doing a SUDS check-in? Are you doing anything that says on a scale of 0 to 10, here's how much pain I have, or as I like to call SUDS, the subjective units of delight? Are you doing either one of those as far as a calibration?
No, I haven't. I haven't at all. And in fact, I just, as we're going through this and the story unfolds, I haven't found it necessary to have to do that, because part of it is as we turn over each card, it's like a clue. We're starting to clue in the story. We might not even know what this is about until the last couple of cards turn over. And that's just how I've been going forward. I could look at interesting sets, but I haven't needed to so far.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So those first 4 are the mindfulness pieces. And again, I want to point out, I'm only going through this sequence because I think this is the best sequence to use when starting out. You can use a pendulum to choose which card wants to be turned over. So if you're feeling a little brave and dynamic, you can go ahead and put that to the test and see what happens. It's pretty amazing to watch how that flows, because the sequence that the cards get turned over can totally change the story. So the last 2 that I want to point out over there on the right side, number 5 is going to be values. And so as that card comes over, what we're trying to do here is just to say, okay, what this card is revealing, what about that is important to you? What about knowing that is important to you? So for example, what if we turn the tower over? The sky's falling, right? Well, what's important about that? What do you value about that? Well, I value the fact that it's only momentary. It's not the end of the world. It's something that passes, and I can find comfort in that. So there are some things that you might say to yourself, how do I, this is death, or this is, the 9 of Swords. How do I value that, right? And really, this is about helping people to be able to engage in human experience, regardless of what shows up in life. And that, so
you just asked, I think you just answered the next question, and that is, are you using just the majors or the entire deck? But you said the 9 of Swords, so you are using the entire deck for this.
I am using the entire deck for this. Now, there are a few different variations of the spread, and I'll get that to a little bit later, where you can split it up so that you have a 13 card spread where on the outer circles, you're using the major arcana. And then on the inner circles, you're using the pip cards. And then in that center, you can use a court card, so you can get some really nice results from that. And then number 6 is going to be action. And I love this because it really gets them to commit to something. And sometimes I'll roll a D6 for this to figure out the number of actions that they're going to need to take. And I like to play this as if I were playing a game, because it brings about this playful curiosity. And I treat the client as a co-operator. We are creating a story together. And so I'm going to need to get some input from them as we move through this, because their unconscious mind is active and will be bringing things forward. And if I have some information about that, I can help them as we move through, as I'm being the guide.
By the way, when Darrell is talking about rolling a D6, he's referring to what you would think of as a standard 6-sided die.
Thank you, Scott. I was geeking out there for a minute. Well, I've been geeking out the whole time. Here we go.
Okay. From one D&D fan to another. It's
cool. All right. Okay. So I'm going to go through the next slides pretty quick so you can get a feel for how this would look. So here's how I would have the cards laid out. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over that first card. So I get that first card. And so I've already just done the breath work with them and I got them present. And I'll say, okay, well, there is a lovely lady that has shown up, or that has this nice feminine quality about nurturing and really bringing out the best in others. Who does that remind you of? Or what circumstance does that remind you of? And I would give them a time to allow them to settle into that and bring that forward. And then, so once I have that piece of information, that becomes kind of the central theme. And then we go ahead and we move down to the second position. So this is going to be self as context. And so here where I'm looking at is, okay, this reminds me of somebody that might have night terrors, right? Or somebody that has anxiety and has this anxiety. And from that, I can ask the question, okay, something is causing a bit of anxiety or concern, or there's some kind of worry. What part of you answers that call? What part of you shows up when you're feeling that way? And then I can break that down a little bit to ask about, okay, well, is there something you would like to share with that part of you? And even invite them to have a conversation briefly with that part, to let that part know that it's not alone and that it's welcome here. And so, or you could say, if that's not the part that you want showing up when that anxiety comes in, is there another part that's available that could help out? And so I would work through that with them. And I know that sounds like, oh my goodness, that might be a little difficult, but it actually isn't after you've gone through that and become comfortable with working with parts. Now, I could simply just go, how are you showing up? How are you showing up when this happens? And how would you rather show up? So we start to play with that. And then on the third, this would be related again to the story and the behavior. And so this I would see with the Page of Wands showing up with this kind of curiosity, this ingenuity, this desire to be resourceful. And I would ask a little bit about, well, the behavior that's coming out with this, what does that remind you of with the behavior that's coming forward in this circumstance? And I could again pull from the Queen of Cups to influence that a little bit, or take a look again at the situation with the anxiety and be able to have these cards talk to each other, inviting in some of that conversation. So the big thing, though, that we're looking at 3 is related to behavior. Is the behavior being exhibited that's being represented by this card, is it helpful? Is it helpful to be playfully curious? Is it helpful to look at this intently? And then anything that comes up, I'm able to use with this. And a lot of times that unconscious mind is starting to help stitch this story together. They already know what this is about. They already know a little bit about how this card plays. And so here, when we move into 4, we look at, okay, so we have the 4 of Wands here. And to me, you know, I'm seeing this as a coming together. I'm seeing this as kind of like your home and your home life. And what is your home allowing you to do with this situation? Are you hiding at home? Has it become your fortress? You know, this could be something that comes out. And I try not to lead too much in this. I'm doing it right now because I'm not actually engaging with a person. So I would talk about the home and, well, what does the home have to do with this? And, you know, what about that is helping you escape from the problem at hand, or what are you trying to escape from your house, kind of a thing. So this could be something that comes in together. And then with number 5, so the big thing to me about the 3 of Wands that comes up is I would think a little bit about you know, patience, and what do I value about patience? What do I value about you know, waiting your turn, or being able to wait through this. So this could also relate to that anxiety, because that number 2 just seems like a very heavy card. And so we would identify a value there. And then in number 6, we can see here we've got the 6 of Pentacles, where, you know, to me, this is representing becoming aware and owning your worth, owning what you've created, owning your skills that you've developed. And so, you know, being able to take that, then Scott, what I would do then is I would then walk them through the story of once upon a time there was this lovely influence, and then, you know, I would go all the way through to and you lived happily ever after, or, you know, so that's how I would go through it. So one last slide before I get into the live reading. And this is just to give you some ideas of some different variations of how you can play that chariot spread. So the 6-card spread I already went through. You could do the 13-card spread. I explained that as well. There's a 7-card spread where you could do the 6-card spread and then add like an oracle card in the middle, or an extra card in the middle. And then if you're going to do a single card spread, or just pull a single card for someone, you can roll the dice to figure out which position you're going to read that card for, and just have that be a standalone reading. Or you could ask them to pick a number from 1 to 6. I'm just doing a quick.
By the way, I'm gonna, you know, Darrell went through some of this with me actually quite a while ago as he was developing this, and I got to tell you, it is such a layered, multi-purpose, and it's as deep as you want to go with this. You know, the 6 cards that we're talking about, just as the basic spread, barely touches the surface of what Darrell's thinking is on this. And so I'm going to brag for him, because I know him well enough to know he won't do it himself, that there's so much thought that has gone into this particular process, blueprint, whatever you want to call it, that I'm really invite all of you, if you're interested in this, to reach out to Darrell once we're done here and go deeper with teaching. And I'm going to continue to push Darrell to put together some online training and perhaps some recordings as far as training, because it's really a phenomenal spread that lets you just do a lot of different things depending on your approach to readings and your philosophical approach to how you work with a seeker to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Scott.
Oh, I wanted to ask one more thing, and I don't see the question in there, but I'm going to ask it.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned pendulum work. Now your hand, I can see your hand on the cloth right now. Do you ever do ideomotor work yourself to find the location of the cards, and or, because I do a lot of what in my trade they call contact mind reading, where you take the person's wrist, or they take your wrist, either one, and kind of rotate it around until you feel resistance, that's where they need to stop, and you turn people into human pendulums. I presume that can be done here as well.
Absolutely. And, it puts me to mind of Aaron Alexander. He has a great product
Yeah.
out called Sync. And that is exactly what I'm intending on doing a similar with this. Haven't tried it yet, but I've got that down as a note.
Yeah. I mean, and I will, with the Vitruvian Square, that's how I work when I'm live and in person. I can work with somebody. We don't have to do cards. We don't have to do anything. You just take their hand and pass it around. And again, they become a human pendulum for you.
Yeah, excellent. So I'll go ahead and begin here for our reading. So again, position 1, the present. Position 2 is going to be self as context. Position 3, we have diffusion, which is where we look at behavior. The next one, position 4, is going to be acceptance. Then we have position 5 for values, and then position 6 will be action. Okay.
And I know we're gonna get the question right now. Is this how you do the reading with the position 1 closest to you, so that 1 is furthest away from the seeker?
I only do it this way because I'm sticking to the acceptance and commitment therapy arrangement on the Hexaflex. So I'm honoring those positions. And I also feel almost like a how do you say it? Genuflex? Where, how do you say that?
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, so
What I'm asking though, Darrell, is if you're sitting across from somebody,
yeah,
right? Number 1 is closest to you right now.
right.
Do you actually spin it around? I know you're doing it for the camera, but do you spin it around so that 1 is furthest away from you when you're doing a reading one-on-one in person?
No, I keep that closest to me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, so I'll go ahead and turn this over here. So we have the 9 of Pentacles. Interesting that came up again. And so I'll just go ahead and show you the card here. Okay. So everybody, as we go through this reading is for you. It's valid. We're doing a group reading together live right now. And so as you get into the present moment and you just observe this card, and it'll go in and out of focus, that's fine. That's how the camera works. And so you'll notice here, you've got a nice lady here, and she's got a bird, and she has wealth. Okay. And so this is going to be a symbol of wealth. And, the thing that comes to me about this is that in life, wealth allows us certain things. We have certain privileges when it comes to wealth. And so sometimes that can be good, or sometimes that could be bad. So anyway, right now, I just would like you to clear your mind, take a few breaths. As you exhale, just allow yourself to become present and perhaps close your eyes. And as you breathe in again, just inviting your unconscious mind to bring forward what this reminds you of. As you exhale, getting comfortable with that. Breathing again, breathing in, getting some clarity about that. And exhaling, letting that go. And when you're ready, you can, at your own pace, open your eyes. I'm going to continue talking. So in this present moment, your unconscious is bringing to the forefront of your mind something that has to do with money, with wealth, having arrived, or the idea of arrival. Any beliefs around wealth. These could be things that don't feel so good, or they could be things that make you feel really comfortable, just depending on where you're at. And so what I'm going to ask for you is to allow that to just settle in as I move to the next card. So I'm seeing a bit of a theme here. So what we have here in position 2, we have the 10 of Pentacles. And so here we have a theme of lineage. We can see generations. We can even see pets and little children down there at the bottom. And the passing on of a legacy. And so what I would like to ask of you is, what part's coming forward in relationship to wealth and the idea of a legacy and lineage that you want to have to leave behind? Something that's already in the works today. We already have a story. We already have an idea about what's important to us. And in this, there's a part that's coming forward that wants to help. There's a part that's coming forward that can find value in being able to use these resources that are available. And I'd like you to recognize that the part that's showing up, that perhaps may be feeling a little uncomfortable if that comes up, and that there's another part, maybe a brand new part, a part that can be created right now, that's willing to step forward to help you to do all the things and connect all the things in your life so that you're able to pass on what's most important to you, not only to your children or the children that are in your life or the children that you want to influence. They don't have to be biologically yours. I'd just like to ask that part to begin to show you through this reading today how you can be used as a vessel to make this world a better place in a way that's fun, in a way that's exciting, in a way that you can begin to feel really good about yourself, regardless of where you're at, regardless of any story or what's in your past. Right now, you have the ability to connect with that which is most important so that you can pass on using your privilege, using whatever avenues that you've opened up, your opportunities of influence, to be able to bring this into the world in a way where you're making a difference. And so now I'm going to go ahead and move over here into position 3. So position 3 is all about behavior. And so I love this, the Hanged Man. It's a vampire hanging upside down, friendly smile with the moon in the back. There's another bat. And so he's seeing things upside down. So there are a couple of things I understand about this that are coming to me. One could simply be being able to see the world in a new way. And how could that potentially affect your behavior? That's right. As you check within and you look at your story and how things are unfolding, what is the story that's in your mind that you've been telling yourself? And what about that story can you change by changing your perception, understanding that everything's possible? And if this is the story of your life, and if you're not happy with how it's gone so far, you can change that. And in this could potentially be the greatest comeback story ever written. So I'd ask you, as you look at your behavior, and your behaviors around wealth and privilege, your behaviors around maybe some old thoughts that you had about lineage and about maybe you weren't able to pass something down, about right now being able to change that perspective to say, hey, look, right now, it can all change. Right now, through a single choice, I can rewrite that story. I can start looking at my behavior. I can start looking at the thoughts and feelings that come in. And I can do that in a way that is respectful. I can do that in a way where I'm being kind to those thoughts. I'm being kind to those feelings as if they were people, as if they were little children trying to help, knowing that these behaviors that are coming to mind right now, whether it's procrastination and just spending too much time hanging around upside down, not knowing what to do, being able to change that, to be able to refocus now, be able to refocus on what's important and how does that change that behavior. Moving into the position of acceptance. Another beautiful card. We have Temperance. And with Temperance, what comes to mind is she's carefully pouring water into another vessel. And there's all this water, which reminds me of feelings. And we also have all that open sky, which reminds me of air, reminds me of our thoughts. And so finding that perfect balance to be able to feel, to accept those feelings that are coming up, to be able to understand that those feelings are not facts. They're just feelings. And those thoughts, they're not facts. They're just things. And so in this position of acceptance, by finding balance in your life, what does that allow you to escape? Or if you're trying to escape balance, what are you running after? What's so important? And when we think about balance as it relates to wealth, as it relates to lineage, as it relates to taking the time to gain a new perspective, that's right. How does that come in? And to be able to accept that thoughts and feelings are going to happen. To be able to accept that finding balance can be uncomfortable. And that can be okay. And if you can be okay with that balance, if you can be okay with whatever happens, it's much easier to be able to pivot, to focus on things like the wealth that you have in your life, the wisdom that you have, the resources that you've created, the products you've made, the relationships you've created. Finding that balance again with how much time we're spending with loved ones and being an influence, about finding those in our lives that we really want to invest in, whether it's encouragement or maybe even financial investment, or maybe it's just staying connected at the distance that's appropriate, the distance that's going to be congruent in a way where somebody knows you're there, but you're not too close where they don't have, you're not too close so they can actually navigate some of those challenges on their own. Lots of opportunity. So we've covered the 4 pieces over here of mindfulness. And now we're coming into the values card. So we're being shown here again, interesting, Pentacles, Page of Pentacles. We can see in there someone in their youth. Perhaps this was the first dollar that they had ever made, or the memory of that. About maybe we made some choices related to money in our youth, where we ended up having to pay off a lot of debt. Or maybe we invested our money wisely, right? So what do we know about our values? What do we value about youthful folly when it comes to money? Or what do we value about starting off on the right foot and having made that investment to have it go forward? And as we consider financial values, what youthful people would we want to invest in, to encourage, to be able to support? What comes to mind? What comes to mind with that youthful innocence or folly, whatever you want to call it? Moving on to the last position. We have the Ace of Wands. And as Scott would say, and then there was intuition. So I'll ask you, what's next? Using your powerful intuition, taking that time to go inward and to process all of these things that have been revealed to you today, thanking your unconscious mind for playing along, for guiding this story, creating the change that is in you and effective right now, allowing your intuition to continue to guide you. I would like you to commit to 4 things today, right now. If you just take a moment, 4 things that you can do intuitively. Maybe it's taking the time each day to get very clear about what's important to you. Maybe it's about taking the time each day to be aware of what's been bothering you. What thoughts and feelings are popping in? How would you like to process that, to be able to sit in it, to find out what it's about? Or perhaps what part of you would be the perfect part to take over this responsibility as you move forward? So just go ahead and take a moment. Very good. And so once upon a time, there was privilege. And privilege turned into a desire to be able to share knowledge, to share resources, to share wealth. As you moved forward in life with behavior, choosing new perspectives, looking at the behavior, asking whether or not, is this serving me? What would I like to change about that? And having made those changes, moving into the acceptance of balance and finding that balance, whether it has to do with physical health or mental health, or the time that you're spending in each reality, whether you're working with children, visiting grandparents, networking with peers, and investing in those that you care the most about. Recognizing the value and investing in youth. Also valuing that we're not stuck in a state where we're gonna have to stumble over those same challenges over and over again with youthful folly that We grow. There's neuroplasticity. The brain continues to grow as we move forward, making those choices of how we're moving forward today. Using intuition to be the guide, the guiding light, the fire. And they all lived happily ever after.
I love this, Darrell. And by the way, everybody, I hope you are enjoying this as much as I am, because this is even more layered, Darrell, than stuff you've shown me before. And I invite all of you to, for those of you who've done some of the training that I've given you, this is a perfect example what Darrell just did of how to apply the Pixar storytelling template, although it's not Pixar's. When Darrell went through and showed you the ordinary world, it's the monomyth made simple. You know, this is where we start. This is what happens every day. And then this happened. Then you've got the next 3 cards. And because of that, and because of that, and because of that. And then the last card is until finally. And it's just a wonderful way to lead you through a reading, irrespective of your knowledge or skill with whatever your oracle device might be. So Darrell, we are actually, time has sped through here. I'd like to just ask if anybody has any questions that they want to pose. Go ahead and just unmute yourself and ask away. Shad, you have to have something. You always have questions. No? Looking for the unmute button?
Yeah. I think this is a pretty compelling setting. I'm still working out some of the things, like present moment I get, but self as concept and diffusion, it kind of escapes me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, bear in mind, by the
I
way,
need to go back and listen to it as the thing.
And you'll be able to get the replay. Bear in mind, this is a sampler of what Darrell's doing, not intended to be a certification course, not only in Darrell's blueprint, but in the ACT concept. And so Darrell's giving you some resources. You can actually get some of this online as well. I just looked and checked. There's a 2nd edition of the primary book that Darrell referred to, so you can get that as well if you want to take this deeper. And then again, Darrell, are you open to everybody reaching out to you? And
Absolutely.
maybe you'll offer a course.
Yeah, I would love it. I would love it, love it, love it, love it. And there's also many ways of layering in other things like the I Ching, using personality types, looking at moon cycles. So planning your, you know, if you honor the moon cycles, being able to plan that all out, and working with the chakras. There's or runes. There's really it's endless, the opportunities to expand as additional layers and just shifting focus, and it gives you more choice as a reader of what direction you want to move in.
Yeah, Angela, by the way, you asked the question, what was the tarot deck? In the chat room, Darrell mentioned the Dark Mansion. I just did a double check. I'm shocked. The Dark Mansion tarot cards are available on Amazon, at least here in the States, for $5.
Whoa.
They're on sale today at 75% off.
Wow.
It was completely coincidental. I've never seen a tarot deck that inexpensive. And it's wonderful. I kept looking at it and expecting, you know, Gomez and because it looks, the Dark Mansion Tarot has always looked very Addams Family to me.
Yeah.
And I love it. And you can see how visually it's out there. For those of you, by the way, that are using the Tarot de Marseille or any other deck that doesn't have pictures for the the minors, you will run into some challenge with your sitters, in my experience, of them not being able to visually connecting because it's just a bunch of pips. So that's why the more visual you can make this, the better it is, in my opinion. Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you very much. It's been an amazing evening. Thank you. What I would say is that I'm not used to working with so much structure, so I think I'm going to have to change because I'm just so trusting on intuition. So this has really made me change the way I look at things now. So I'm going to have a different approach. So thank you, Darrell.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fiona. Any other questions?
Not
just
so
want to
much
say
a
thank
question.
you.
Yeah, Vicky. Wait, Vicky, you just went to mute.
Sorry. I just wanted to say thank you. That was bloody phenomenal. It's just answered so many questions, which Darrell might know I was that's been on my mind. So it's just amazing. And I can see how amazing that would be to use in conjunction with hypnotherapy and with clients. And I want to get that deck. It's just incredible. So
It is an
so
incredible
much.
deck. It's an incredible deck, and all of you are going to find the more you connect with Darrell, he is just not only a wealth of information, but he's so practical in the way he filters some of these abstract thoughts down into usable form. And Vicky, from a personal experience, I can tell you that using all of these skills and taking them into, if nothing else, your pre-framing, framing, future pacing, etc., constructs, let alone parts therapy, it's all of this is going to enhance that. And as Darrell and I've discussed before, I routinely use tarot cards as a doorway or threshold to help people go deeper. Whether you want to use trance or not use trance, it's a wonderful visualization tool to help, again, what I call ethically nudge people through their own story, or to set their stories aside even.
Yeah, I found
anything else?
I found that if I have a reoccurring client that I'm working with, like for hypnosis, I'll introduce this maybe in like the third meetup, and it's amazing what comes forward. Some stuff that wouldn't have came forward in a regular hypnosis because the visual, if you have a visual person with you and they're seeing these cards, they immediately go right into the story, which is a type of trance.
Very much so. Yeah, you bring out the cards or any other type of oracle device, and you automatically get Once Upon a Time. You automatically get that. Let's go back to Milk and Cookies. Tell me a story. And once the story is engaged, you now have them where you need to take them through their own monomyth. All right. With that, Darrell, again, thank you. Remind everybody how they can get in touch with you.
You can get a hold of me. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat here, think.sql@gmail.com. And right now I don't have a page or a website for this, but if there's enough interest, I'd be happy to set one up where we can exchange ideas and have meetups and all kinds of wonderful things. So eventually this will probably be turned into a product. So feel free to contact me on Facebook as well. I love people, and it would put a smile on my face any attention you give me.
And I'm going to invite people until Darrell gets his own pop-up Facebook presence or website. I am inviting all of you as part of Proper Tarot. You can exchange things in there, post whatever you need to with questions. Darrell is part of that group. And then the replay of this will be in the group once I get it edited down and it's made available for you. So again, Darrell, thank you very much. I appreciate everything you are, everything you bring to the table, all that you have put together. And with that, folks, thank you very much. Peace. Bye-bye.
Bye.